You've just achieved something meaningful. Maybe you got promoted, started a successful business, or simply found happiness in your life. You're excited to share the news, but instead of genuine celebration, you're met with subtle criticism, backhanded compliments, or cold silence. Someone you thought was a friend suddenly becomes distant. Their eyes don't light up with joy for you. They narrow with something else entirely: jealousy. Most of us have experienced this sting. It's confusing, hurtful, and can make us question whether we should tone ourselves down, hide our success, or apologize for our achievements. But here's what's fascinating. The ancient Stoics, philosophers who lived over 2,000 years ago, had already figured out why jealousy from others is not something to fear, and why allowing it to affect you is one of the greatest mistakes you can make. The Stoics weren't just armchair philosophers. These were people who faced real adversity: exile, loss of fortune, persecution, even death. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire while surrounded by conspirators. Epictetus was born a slave. Seneca navigated the treacherous politics of Nero's court. Yet they developed a framework for living that made them virtually immune to the jealousy and ill will of others. Today, we're going to explore exactly how they did it, and more importantly, how you can apply these same principles to free yourself from the fear of jealous people. Understanding jealousy through the Stoic lens. Before we can stop fearing jealous people, we need to understand what jealousy actually is. The Stoics had a remarkably clear view of this emotion. They recognized jealousy as a form of suffering that originates entirely within the jealous person's mind. It's not caused by your success, it's caused by how they interpret your success. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who went from slavery to becoming one of the most respected teachers in Rome, taught that we should distinguish between what is in our control and what is not. Your achievements, your happiness, your progress, these are largely within your control, at least in terms of the effort you put in. But another person's reaction to your success, that's entirely outside your control. It exists in their mind, shaped by their beliefs, their insecurities, their past experiences. Think of jealousy as a mirror that reflects the jealous person's internal landscape, not your worth. When someone feels threatened by your success, what they're really revealing is their own sense of inadequacy. They believe that resources, whether that's success, recognition, love, or opportunity, are scarce, and that your gain represents their loss. This is fundamentally a distortion of reality, but it's their distortion, not yours. The Stoics would argue that the jealous person is already suffering. They're tormented by comparing themselves to you. They're consumed by resentment. They're unable to experience joy because they're too busy tallying what others have. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." The jealous person has chosen harm by their own interpretation. You don't have to make that same choice. The Stoic principle of inner citadel. One of the most powerful Stoic concepts is the idea of the inner citadel, an unassailable fortress within your own mind. Marcus Aurelius described this as a place where no external force can penetrate unless you allow it entry. Jealous people can only harm you if you grant them access to this inner citadel. Here's where most people go wrong. They allow the disapproval or envy of others to breach their walls. Someone makes a snide comment about your promotion, and suddenly you're doubting whether you deserved it. A family member seems cold about your new relationship, and you start questioning whether you should be happy. This is giving away your power. The Stoics practiced a form of mental discipline where they constantly reminded themselves that their worth, their virtue, and their peace of mind could not be touched by external opinions. Seneca put it brilliantly: "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." When you're clear about your own values and direction, the adverse winds of jealousy cannot blow you off course. Building your inner citadel means developing a strong sense of self that isn't dependent on external validation. It means knowing why you do, what principles guide you, and what truly matters to you. When you have this foundation, jealous reactions from others become nothing more than weather happening outside your fortress. You can observe it, but it doesn't flood your home. Why jealousy is actually about them, not you. Let's dive deeper into a liberating truth. Jealous behavior reveals everything about the person feeling it and almost nothing about you. The Stoics understood that people's reactions are filtered through their own perceptions, beliefs, and emotional states. Two people can witness the exact same event and have completely different reactions because they're interpreting it through different lenses. Imagine you receive recognition at work. One colleague might feel inspired by your achievement, thinking, "If they can do it, so can I. I should work harder." Another might feel jealous, thinking, "This isn't fair. They probably cheated or got lucky. This diminishes my own chances." Notice that your achievement is identical in both cases, but the internal narrative is completely different. Epictetus taught his students that people are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. The jealous person has taken a view that your success threatens them, but that's a choice they're making based on their beliefs about scarcity, their own self-worth, and their worldview. You didn't make that choice for them. This is profoundly freeing because it means you can stop trying to manage other people's jealousy. You can't tone yourself down enough to make an insecure person feel secure. You can't shrink yourself enough to make someone else feel bigger. The Stoics would say that trying to do so is not only futile, but actually harmful to your own character development. You're not responsible for fixing someone else's distorted perception. The practice of sympathetic understanding. Now, here's where Stoicism might surprise you. While the Stoics didn't fear jealous people, they also didn't despise them. Instead, they practiced what we might call sympathetic understanding. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about this in his Meditations, reminding himself to view difficult people with compassion rather than anger. When someone acts out of jealousy, spreading rumors, undermining your work, giving you the cold shoulder, the Stoic response is to recognize that this person is trapped in a prison of their own making. They're suffering from a diseased judgment, unable to see clearly. Just as you wouldn't be angry at someone with poor eyesight for stumbling, you don't need to be angry at someone with poor judgment for acting badly. This doesn't mean accepting mistreatment or allowing yourself to be harmed. The Stoics were very practical about protecting themselves, but it means understanding that jealous behavior comes from a place of pain and confusion. The person who resents your happiness is themselves deeply unhappy. The person who can't celebrate your success has likely never learned to celebrate their own. Seneca advised, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When faced with jealousy, becoming bitter, paranoid, or retaliatory makes you more like the jealous person. The Stoic approach is to maintain your equanimity, continue acting according to your values, and recognize that the jealous person is already punishing themselves more than you ever could. Focusing on what you can control. Let's return to the foundational Stoic principle, the dichotomy of control. This is the most practical tool for dealing with jealous people. Make a clear distinction in your mind. What can you control? Your own actions, your own reactions, your own character, your own effort. What can't you control? Other people's thoughts, other people's emotions, other people's behavior toward you, other people's jealousy. When you truly internalize this distinction, jealousy from others becomes almost irrelevant to your life. You're not trying to prevent it, that's outside your control. You're not trying to fix it, that's their work to do. You're simply focusing your energy where it actually matters, on being the kind of person you want to be and doing the kind of work that aligns with your values. Think about how much energy most people waste trying to manage others' perceptions. They hide their successes to avoid envy. They downplay their achievements to seem humble. They sabotage their own progress because they're afraid of how others will react. This is exactly backwards from the Stoic perspective. You're sacrificing what you can control, your own growth and happiness, for the sake of what you can't control, others' emotional reactions. The Stoics would encourage you to redirect all that wasted energy back into your own development. Instead of worrying about whether someone will be jealous of your promotion, focus on being excellent in your new role. Instead of hiding your relationship to avoid others' envy, focus on being a loving and supportive partner. Instead of dimming your light, let it shine, and focus on using that light to see your path more clearly. The virtue of indifference to external judgment. The Stoics cultivated what they called preferred indifference to many external things, including reputation and others' opinions. This doesn't mean you don't care at all. It means you don't base your well-being and self-worth on these external factors. Marcus Aurelius, who had the entire Roman Empire talking about him constantly, reminded himself daily not to let external opinions disturb his inner peace. He wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value of his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." This is a profound observation. If someone is jealous of you, their opinion is inherently biased and distorted. Why would you value a biased, distorted opinion over your own rational assessment of your character and actions? Yet this is exactly what happens when we fear jealous people. We give their warped perspective more weight than our own rational judgment. Developing indifference to external judgment is a practice. It requires you to regularly check in with yourself and ask, am I living according to my values? Am I treating others with respect and fairness? Am I pursuing worthwhile goals? If the answer is yes, then the jealousy of others is simply noise that you can acknowledge and then dismiss. This doesn't make you arrogant or disconnected from others. In fact, it makes you more genuinely connected because you're not performing for approval or hiding to avoid disapproval. You're simply being authentic, and you're allowing others the freedom to have whatever reaction they're going to have. Turning jealousy into useful information. Here's an unexpected Stoic twist. While you shouldn't fear jealous people, you can actually use their jealousy as information. The Stoics were big on self-examination and reflection. When someone reacts to you with jealousy, it can sometimes point to areas where you might want to examine your own behavior. For instance, if you're constantly triggering jealousy in others, it's worth asking yourself, am I being needlessly boastful? Am I rubbing my success in people's faces? Am I being insensitive to others' struggles? Sometimes what appears as jealousy is actually a reaction to genuine insensitivity or arrogance on your part. The Stoics would value humility and would want you to be honest about this possibility. However, and this is crucial, most of the time, jealousy tells you nothing about your behavior and everything about the other person's internal state. The key is to do an honest self-inventory. Ask yourself if there's any legitimate feedback hidden in the negative reaction. If there is, adjust. If there isn't, carry on. Epictetus taught that every difficulty is an opportunity to practice virtue. Dealing with jealous people gives you an opportunity to practice patience, understanding, boundaries, and emotional resilience. Instead of seeing jealous people as obstacles, see them as your training partners in developing a stronger character. They're providing you with resistance, and resistance is what builds strength. The freedom of not needing everyone's approval.
Perhaps the ultimate reason Stoics never feared jealous people is that they had already liberated themselves from the need for universal approval. They recognized that it's literally impossible to please everyone, and trying to do so is a recipe for misery. Marcus Aurelius observed, "Everything is only for a day, both that which remembers and that which is remembered." In other words, even if someone is jealous of you today, in the grand scheme of time, it's utterly insignificant. The opinion that seems so important now will be forgotten. The person who resents you now will eventually forget why. You'll both be dust. This perspective isn't depressing, it's liberating. It frees you to focus on what actually matters: living well, treating others well, developing your character, and making whatever contribution you're here to make. The jealousy of others is just static in the background of your life. You can acknowledge it exists without letting it dictate your choices. Think about the people you most admire. Chances are they've all faced jealousy and criticism. Anyone who does anything worthwhile will attract both admirers and detractors. The Stoics knew this and prepared themselves for it. Seneca wrote extensively about how the person who pursues virtue should expect to face misunderstanding and resentment from those who don't share that pursuit. Practical Stoic strategies for dealing with jealous people. Let's get concrete. How do you actually implement these Stoic principles when facing jealousy in real life? First, maintain your composure. When someone makes a jealous comment or gives you a cold reaction, resist the urge to react emotionally. Take a breath. Remember that their reaction is about them. Respond with calm dignity, or don't respond at all. Second, set boundaries when necessary. Stoic indifference doesn't mean being a doormat. If someone's jealous behavior crosses into sabotage, bullying, or harmful gossip, you have every right to distance yourself or address it directly. The Stoics were very practical about protecting themselves from harm while maintaining their inner peace. Third, practice daily reflection. The Stoics engaged in regular self-examination, often at the end of each day. When you encounter jealousy from others, reflect on it later. Did you handle it well? Did you let it disturb your peace? What could you do better next time? This practice builds resilience over time. Fourth, cultivate genuine relationships with people who can celebrate your success. The Stoics valued friendship highly, but they were selective about their close companions. Surround yourself with people who have enough security in themselves to genuinely rejoice in your victories. These are the relationships worth investing in. Finally, remember the impermanence of all things. The Stoics practiced memento mori, remembering that you will die. This isn't morbid, it's clarifying. When you remember that your time is limited, spending it worrying about jealous people seems absurd. You have better things to do with your precious days. The Stoics never feared jealous people because they understood several fundamental truths. They knew that jealousy is a self-inflicted suffering that exists entirely in the jealous person's mind. They knew that their own worth and peace could not be touched by external opinions. They knew that trying to control others' reactions was both impossible and beneath their dignity. And they knew that the only thing truly worth their attention was the development of their own character. You have the same choice available to you today. You can continue to shrink yourself, hide your light, and tiptoe through life trying not to trigger anyone's envy. Or you can embrace the Stoic path. Live according to your values, pursue your goals with integrity, maintain your inner citadel, and let others have whatever reaction they're going to have. When you stop fearing jealous people, something remarkable happens. You start living more authentically. You take bigger risks. You celebrate your victories without guilt. You offer your gifts to the world without apologizing. And ironically, when you stop trying to manage others' jealousy, you often inspire more admiration than envy, because people can sense your genuine confidence and inner freedom. The jealous person is already trapped in their own prison of resentment and comparison. Don't join them there. Stay free. Stay focused on what you can control. Stay committed to your own growth. And remember what Marcus Aurelius knew when he wrote in his journal late at night, despite ruling an empire where thousands envied his position. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is available to you right now. Not in changing jealous people, you can't. Not in avoiding all envy, you can't. But in choosing how you respond, in protecting your inner peace, and in living according to your own values, regardless of who approves or disapproves. That's the Stoic way. That's the path to freedom. And that's why you, like the Stoics before you, never need to fear jealous people again.